Welcome to LoveTalk Network, friends. I'm Kathy Endebrock in studio with Coach Carrie Brinkater and Marlene McMichael. Friends, we are real stories sharing real people sharing real stories about God's love. Boy, you would think that I could get that out. Real people sharing real stories about God's love. I was with my mom a weekend ago, and she said, "I just love listening to your program because I get to find out what's going on in your life." And I'm like, Mom, oh my gosh, you're making me feel so guilty. But I do. I love this. Like, we share what is going on, the good news, the struggles. And, sometimes we have to ask our kids, hey, am I allowed to share this on air? But yeah, we are ladies that want to be genuine and straightforward, and we are walking the walk. We are getting as close to Jesus as we can possibly get and get as much light for our path as we can possibly get. And we are sharing it all with you. And today, friends, we are going to be having a special guest on the program who God is using in a different way. Marlene can relate to him most because of her background in politics. He's a dear friend because of his background in prayer. He's been a friend of Love Talk for many years, where he's been on our program talking about Collegiate Day of Prayer and reaching out to students on college campuses. He was with us when he was standing up against the Round Rock ISD school board, when the superintendent there was doing some not just unethical, but illegal things. And he stood his ground. It was such a David and Goliath story. I don't know if he's going to be sharing the outcome from that with us today. I do know that he is pursuing that and not letting them off the hook, but he is standing up so that we are able to stand up. And friends, here's the news. He is going to be running for the District 10 congressional seat in the state of Texas, and primaries are coming up. We want him to tell his story, what God is doing in his life right now, why he is saying yes to this, why he is stepping into it, and then what we need to do as those who are standing for God in this nation, in this time, how we can step forward in these primaries and vote godly values. I think if we are united with godly values, it unites the voice of Christ. And we realize that America is not another Israel. This is not Christian nationalism, but we are called to stand as ambassadors for Christ against the schemes of the enemy, to stand firm. And I was looking at how God appoints leaders, Coach Carrie and Marlene. And this was so important because all my life I've heard, oh, God just appoints the president. God appoints the leaders. We just get to pray for them. But very clearly in Deuteronomy 1, verse 13, it is God telling his people, go and choose. You choose, not I choose. You go and choose well-respected men from each tribe who are known for their wisdom and understanding, and then I will appoint them as your leaders. God gives us the same privilege today. So Marlene, primaries are coming up. Yeah, primaries are coming up March 3rd. I think we're in early voting right now. What does this mean for us?
March 3rd is the election.
March 3rd is the
primary
election.
Yes.
Yeah, March 3rd is the primary election.
So early voting is between the 17th and the 27th in Texas. That may vary depending on which stand. But if you've never gone to a polling place before and never been involved in an election, we encourage you to do that, because this is how we get our leaders. And the primary, you'll have to declare whether you're a Republican or Democrat, and then you vote primary. In other words, the Republicans have all their candidates for a congressional seat, or well, it would be mostly congressional. And you pick the one that gets to run from your perspective. So the interesting thing to me is, in all the elections I've witnessed, I've never seen this many candidates running for election on both sides, Democrat and Republican, with very few exceptions. There are, sometimes 8 to 10 people running against each other for the same seat. So it's really critical you understand what each of them believe, but it's also really critical that you for sure go vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is critical that you go vote. And I know, Marlene, a lot of people are hesitant to declare I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. And so they hesitate to vote in the primaries because you have to declare. And they think, oh, well, I'll let everyone else choose the primary candidates. And then when I go to the polling place, I don't have to tell anyone whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I can just go in and vote. But don't be afraid. Just go to the websites. Kathy, the website, is it vote TX or texasvote.org? What is it? I just tried to look it up. And
I believe it is votetexas.org.
VoteTexas.org. Okay. VoteTexas.org. And you can find the candidates there. You can find who are the Democrat candidates, the Republican candidates. You can even click on their names and you can get a little bit more information about each candidate. And it really is important to vote in these primaries because in some of these primaries, Marlene, there's like 8 or 10 people running on the Republican ticket for one seat.
Absolutely,
right? For
yes.
one opportunity on the main ballot to then go against the Democrat on the ballot and vice versa. There's, could be 8 or 10 Democrats for one seat.
Right. But you can't flip in a primary election like this. You can't flip back and forth.
Right.
You have to declare whether you're going to vote on the Republican ticket or you're going to vote on the Democrat ticket. And I am certain that every county has a website that you can go to and look at the ballot before you go. So that's what you really need to do. Those websites are already posted. So go in and get a sample ballot. And there's 2 things you can look at. You can look at the names, and maybe you know some of them, and decide just based on that whether you're going to vote Republican or Democrat. On the other hand, there are also propositions that are part of each ballot. On the Republican side, there's 10 in Texas, and on the Democrat side, there's 13 propositions. And those propositions, in the way that they are written, tell you what the values are of that particular party. So one is going to say we're going to ban abortions or something to that effect, and the other one will say we will give that to people for their choice. So you can guess which one is which party. But each of those propositions, you're not, when you cast a vote for them, you're not getting free taxes. I mean,
Right.
In the Republican side, it's reducing taxes on a lot of those propositions, but that's not law. That's basically telling them, yeah, I would like the state to lower my property taxes. So it's not, you're not winning anything. You're just voting.
That's right. And we will be chatting with Kathy Enderbrock, Marlene McMill, and Coach Carrie Brinkater right here on LoveTalk Network right after this.
Welcome back, friends, to LoveTalk Network. I'm Kathy Enderbrock in studio with the marvelous Marlene McMichael and Coach Carrie Brinkater. And friends, we would like to introduce to you, for those who have not met him, he has been a friend of LoveTalk. He is a friend of LoveTalk, and he is joining us today, Jeremy Story. Jeremy, thank you for joining us today on LoveTalk Network.
Yeah, thank you. It's a blessing to join you guys. I'm thankful for y'all's faithfulness.
Well, we're very excited about you running for the 10th congressional seat in the state of Texas. I actually, we follow each other on Facebook. We've had you on the program in the past talking about prayer and Collegiate Day of Prayer and Every Student Sent and your stand against the Round Rock ISD School District. And so when I was going on Facebook and I saw that you were running, I was amazed. And at first I was so excited. And then I thought, oh my goodness, his poor wife and kids, they are going to be run through the ringer. And I imagine it's kind of how we view politics, that it's wonderful to have Christian men and women who are willing to step into this arena. And at the same time, our hearts just kind of go out to them because we know what a challenge that is. So I'd like us to start. We're going to talk today about why you're getting involved in this and all of that nitty gritty stuff. But would you just share with our listening friends and with our viewers who have not met you, who have never heard you on Love Talk before, tell us a bit about your background and then after you tell us about your background, why you're stepping into this race.
Yeah, sure. From a political perspective, my background is I've served as the chaplain of the Republican Party of Texas for 4.5 years. And then I served on the state Republican Executive Committee for the last 2 years for Senate District 5, which is 7 counties out of the 13 in this particular United States Congressional District that I'm looking at serving in right now. And from a ministry or nonprofit perspective, when I was about 20 and for about 28 years, I headed up a ministry that works with college students all across the country. We started at UT, also worked with A&M, and then sort of bridged out from University of Texas A&M and other campuses here in Texas to the whole country. And our whole focus was on uniting together college works, leaders on college campuses, all across the country to see them transform college campuses. So I spent a lot of time building coalitions with people that ordinarily didn't work together, but had common interests to unstuck places that were stuck. It sounds a lot like DC, doesn't it? And so you have to learn who you can trust, who you can't trust, what all their different interests are. And we did that all the way up to the national level and some other countries as well. So that's kind of my history. Presently, also, my wife and I, my wife has a passion to help people understand where their food comes from. And so we have a ranch that we've moved on to in the last year and a half or so. And we have a farm-to-table restaurant that we run here that serves our whole county and actually other counties as well. And an event center and a large lodge that we host people at where they can come and see what's going on here. They can see, we source food locally from the surrounding counties. We serve everything from filet mignon to Angus hamburgers. And so, but the whole thing though is not just to have a restaurant, which it is one of the best rated restaurants in Bastrop right now, Bastrop County. We have like 5,000 plus followers on Facebook, 4.7 rating. But our real heart is to train and educate people on how to be self-sustaining. So in the for-profit realm, the nonprofit realm, and in the political realm, I have different experience that is relevant, I think, to this race.
Okay, what's the name of the restaurant, Jeremy?
So the name of the restaurant, I don't usually talk about it unless people ask, but it's called the Farmhouse Kitchen.
The Farmhouse Kitchen. Okay, I'm just like Bastrop. We're always looking for great places. And I mean, hey, who knows if we can go in there and grab your ear and tell you what we think about what's going on, give you some insight.
Yeah. Grab that link.
It's right off 290. It's right outside of Page off Highway 290, about 90 seconds off 290. So it's pretty easy to get to. We get lots of people coming back and forth from Houston to Austin. People as far north up in Round Rock, all the way down to Lockhart, all over the place. So, yeah.
Wow.
Nice. I know exactly where that is. I got a ticket in Page once, so I know exactly where that is.
One of the many places, right, Coach Carey?
No.
Come on out. It's on a 68-acre ranch and overlooks a lake and everything. So come on out. The other thing that we do a little differently is, because I am a believer and I want to cultivate an environment that honors the Lord, among many things that we do besides ministering to our patrons. We also run worship music, the whole time that the restaurant is open, and that is our background music. And so we're unashamedly Christian in how we run the restaurant.
Love it.
Wow. So you've worked in the not-for-profit, the for-profit. I know that you were one of the founding members of the Collegiate Day of Prayer, which is coming up very, very soon. Everyone out there, you can adopt a campus. But you have been a businessman at heart. You've started 2 very successful businesses, and you've helped others to do the same. You've trained CEOs across the country. So just such an incredible, unique background. But I mean, Jeremy, I don't know. I'm thinking, gosh, you could just go enjoy your ranch, go throw out a fishing rod and have a cocktail on the back porch with your beautiful wife and your 7 kiddos. Why would you put yourself through what is going to be required to step in and step up and get into this congressional race?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody asks themselves that question. I hope they do before they run. I mean, the bottom line reason why I'm doing it is I want to bring change to our country and to a Congress in particular. Congress is very stuck. It's affecting our whole country. And I have a long history really on the local level, the regional level, and the national level, going into really hard places and trusting the Lord to see change and bringing people together that ordinarily wouldn't work together. People say it can't happen, won't happen, hasn't happened in 100 years, hasn't, and I've seen it happen time and time again with high level stakes and very difficult places, everywhere from Harvard to UCLA, national multi-million-dollar organizations, CEOs of different things, all that. And I think, honestly, like I say on the campaign trail, I've done these things and I've seen it happen so that people understand that I'm not just wanting some pipe dream of changing Washington and building coalitions. But as believers, I would say, I believe that only happens because of the favor of the Lord and trusting him. And so I do believe that God's enabled me to see these things happen. It's never been perfect, but I think that I'm uniquely equipped to go into the House of Representatives and other areas in DC and bring people together and help people think in ways that maybe they aren't thinking and help overcome obstacles. And I want to see that happen. I get so tired of us electing officials who say they're going to do one thing and then get to wherever they're going, in this case, Washington, D.C., and they don't do it. They don't do what they said. They often will do the opposite. And why? Well, honestly, I think it's because they lack courage. And when they face oppression or they face threats or they face people trying to pull strings, or they just face the temptation of advancing their own personal little career in politics over the good of the people, they choose the wrong choice every single time, which is themselves. I will never do that. Life is too short. There is no temptation in Washington that will ever tempt me. There's no person who can threaten me into being different. And there's no donor who can pull my strings. And so that's why I want to go to DC, because I know that to be 100% true from 30 years of having to face those pressures, and it's not going to change in DC. And so that's why I want to go there, and I want to be a different example, and I want to help others be a different example so that we can have better conservative policy in Washington, DC.
Well, Jeremy, I admire all of that in you. And I've been in the political arena, not so much as a candidate, although I did do that one time, but as the helping arms. And, one of the things that we really have to get across to the American people is that your vote counts and you need to get involved in that. So talk about that a little bit as to why did you even get involved in politics at all? And I don't mean that personally as much as I mean, why should we all get involved
as Christians?
Christians, and why is that so important?
Well, I'll start with an 80,000 foot level, like you're in an airplane looking down at the overall issue. The real truth is that the Bible tells us that we are salt and light. Jesus reminds us of that. He used those analogies. We're told that we're ambassadors of God. We're told in the Lord's Prayer to pray that his kingdom would come and his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He desires us to bring his ideas in our everyday lives. We're supposed to be influencers, not just cleansed by God, saved by God, but also we're saved and cleansed unto bringing salt and light and bringing his presence to the culture around us. So what that means is that maybe not everybody's called to go into politics, but everybody's called to go into something. and the idea of being sort of a monk and reclusive and protecting yourself from sort of a sinful world is not a Jesus idea. Jesus was regularly really accused of being a friend of sinners, of being in the midst of places that, religious people shouldn't be. But why? Was it because he was like those sinful people? No, it was because he wanted to bring influence into those places and light into those places. And he called his disciples to do the same. So whether you're called out to be an architect, a mom, an educator, a musician, whatever it might be, a farmer. Many people in my district are farmers, a business person. In politics, we're called as Christians to shine the light of Christ and be an example to others and to exert his power that he gives us. We, as believers, we believe that we're filled with God. We're filled with the Holy Spirit, and that we're literally temples of God. So everywhere we walk, we are believing that God is going with us, not just from outside us, but literally the Bible tells us in the New Testament, we are filled with the Spirit of God and that we are a temple of his. So I believe we're called to be ambassadors everywhere. Politics is a particularly, difficult spot. It's hard to trust people. It's very wicked. What a great place for believers to come in and bring influence. You think about the William Wilberforces of the past in England, who was a big part of pressing for a long time to eradicate slavery. Well, that's a major deal that he was able to help. There have been Christians all throughout political history that have brought positive change. And I think that we as believers need to be able to about bringing positive change. And it's come in all different ways. I don't know why, but the Lord's reminding me of Rosa Parks. I mean, she wasn't an elected official, but a lot of people don't realize one of the reasons why she was chosen is that they said that she just had a peace about her that they didn't think could be shaken. And they knew also that she had this firm resolve and that she wouldn't back down, even though she could be peaceful. Well, they chose her over somebody else. And one of the main reasons why she was like that is she was a person of faith. Well, this lady then becomes, we know the famous story of her going to the back of the bus and challenging racial racism at the time. Well, I think there's all kinds of things that we as believers need to do. Like, for one example, right now, one of my platforms is secure the border and to also make our immigration law fair and consistent. It's not just about closing the border. It's also about making our immigration law consistent and fair so that bureaucrats and judges don't interpret it in their own ways and therefore do all kinds of crazy things. Otherwise, you could have a new administration come in and just undo everything. The reason why that's allowed is because the law isn't clear. I know that from just history of looking at it. What we need and what Congress's job is to make those laws clear, or otherwise someone will just take advantage of them. So that's a perfect example where the government during the Biden administration was literally sponsoring sex trafficking, sponsoring human trafficking. That's a major issue of our day. It's not just a political issue. People, girls, were being sex trafficked at the bequest, essentially, and the empowerment of the federal government. That's not a political issue. That's a moral issue. And as believers, we need to stand up for that and say, no, I don't think it's okay for little girls to be brought into our country, teenage girls from other countries, so they can be abused by men. And I certainly don't think that I want my government doing that. And as a representative, I'm going to call that out. I'm going to call that out whether you're a Republican or Democrat. That's wrong. Whoever wants to try to do that, they should stop. And I would call it out.
I love that. And Jeremy,
what if you're...
Go ahead, Marlene.
I was going to say, what if you're not going to run for Congress or someplace else, and I speak to the believer that wants to do something, but that's not on the horizon. That the political office is not on the horizon. But what else can believers do to impact their city, state, country through the political process?
Political process. Okay, because I have an answer, but it wasn't going to be political.
Well, do it both ways then, because basically,
live somewhere, right? Everybody I know lives somewhere for the most part, and so your neighborhood, your area, the streets around you, the people immediately around you, host a gathering in your home. Start reading the Bible. Encourage your neighbors to read the Bible with you. Pray for them. Walk around and talk to them and pray. You say, well, Jeremy, that's crazy. Nobody does that. Well, I did. I lived in Leander. I've lived in various places. My wife and I, we would pray for our neighbors. You wouldn't be amazed how many people say, nobody's ever asked me how they could serve me or pray for me or giving me cookies or whatever. And then they would come over to our house and they'd learn about the Bible. They'd learn about things from all different aspects. And so I think one of the things we can do is really simply be light right where we live. Or maybe it's your business. You can also do the same thing wherever you work. I don't care whether it's SpaceX or whether it's Apple or wherever you're at, or University of Texas. You can be a light there by just encouraging, maybe during lunch breaks or afterwards, hey, you want to get together and let me pray for you? Or you want to get together and read the Bible? Those are simple things we can do. In politics, how can people be involved? Well, they can run, but you said, let's look at other things. You can be involved as a precinct chair, which is also a very neighborhood-based thing. There's so many precincts around where you live. There's small political units where if you want to just see people vote differently, or you want to tell them who they maybe should vote for, you can sign up with, I would say, the Republican Party, because I'm a Republican, to be a precinct chair. If you're a conservative, I want to encourage you to do that as a Christian. And there's a lot of these places that are open, and you can go and ask to be a precinct chair. And then you can go around and you can help people know who to vote for in your neighborhood. And it's very easy to do. You can also be involved in going to the state convention and the county conventions in the Republican Party. So every county in our state, most all of them hold a county convention, and that you can go and be a delegate there, and you can learn about things that are going on. You can speak into things that are going on. You can propose resolutions and issues. You can even propose things you think should be in the Republican Party platform. If you think religious liberty is a big deal, which I do 100%, then make sure that that's in our platform and stays in our platform as a party. And you can push that at the county level. You can also go to the state level. Our state will have a convention this summer, and you'll be able to go if you want. First, you have to go to the county level to get to the state level, but you can very easily do that. And then you can also very much officially vote on what will be our state party platform. So if there's something you want, like you want to make sure that we are still pro-life, please make sure that stays that way. Whatever the issue may be, and you can advocate for that at our state convention as well. Other thing you can do is pray for officials. There's a lot of people that go down to the Capitol. I believe some of the people on this call do, and pray for the officials that are there. There are people who are very active in praying for people locally. That's very, very important. I lead on the board of Intercessors for America. I'm one of their board members on their executive board. And we mobilize millions of people to pray for the federal government and state governments across this country. Very important. One of the most important things that Derek Prince said we could ever do is shift history through prayer and fasting and praying for people in authority. But way before Derek Prince said that and his founding of IFA, Timothy, that Paul said that in the letter to Timothy, where he said, first of all, then I urge prayer for all people, especially those in authority, that we may live in peace and that salvation would grow, essentially. So even in the Bible, we're commanded to pray for people in authority.
You know, Jeremy, I have this question for you. In our opening segment, before you joined us, we were talking about the primaries. It's March 3rd. We're in the early voting for the primaries right now, but voting day is March 3rd. One of the things about the primaries is we have to choose, which ticket we're going to, or which ballot we're going to vote on. Are we going to vote Republican? Are we going to vote Democrat? And then I'm guessing there's probably an independent as well. Now, you're a man of faith. So when you had to step forward as a candidate, you had to decide, well, do I want to run as a Democrat candidate? Do I want to run as a Republican candidate? And there's lots of people who don't want to put themselves in a box, but they want to vote in the primaries. What can help us choose which party to vote for, and why is it important? Because, the primaries is just which Republican candidate is going to run in November or which Democrat. Why can't we just wait till November and vote then?
Yeah, this is such an important question. And what I'm about to say is maybe going to upset people. But listen, I'm a holistic, Bible-believing Christian. I don't believe the government is the salvation for people. I believe Jesus is the salvation for people. I believe I want to be a light in the government. But I don't confuse the two, okay? But let me then say, to then make the statement like you see some pastors say and some spiritual leaders say, oh, it's all about the same. Politics, whatever, it's not really. No, they don't know what they're talking about. They just don't. And unfortunately, they're naive and they're being influencing Christians in wrong ways. I always encourage people just to read the Bible for themselves. I'm going to say, read the platforms of the Texas Democratic Party and the Texas Republican Party. You can get them online. You can go to their websites for free and read them and just compare them. And you will think you are looking at two groups of people that are looking at entirely different worlds. You're not looking at two things that are kind of similar and that they kind of overlap. No, they don't. There's almost no overlap between those two platforms. So starting with that assumption, which I will promise you, go check it out. Don't take my word for it. Go to those websites, look it up. When you say, wait a second, they're mutually exclusive. So there is not a lot of overlap like there maybe used to be when my grandmother was young, right? Just not there. For example, at the Texas Republican Party, I was the chaplain of the Republican Party of Texas for 4.5 years. So at our last state convention, which we just talked about, I opened us up in prayer. I talked about religious freedom. I exalted the name of Jesus in my prayer. Do you know the Democrats, what they did? They had a former stripper / transgender person talk about how that's really important. That was kind of how they opened theirs. I just want to pause because that happened 2 years ago at our state convention. We had a 24/7 prayer room that I led at the state convention. The Democrats did not. When I testified at the legislature in front of one of the leading Democrats and other people, he knew who I was, and he said, Mr. Story, how do you become a chaplain of the Republican Party? And I said, well, they just appoint you. You can do it if people know you and they'll appoint you. And he said, well, we in our party are so diverse, we can't just have one chaplain. And I said, well, no problem then. I will volunteer to be your first chaplain. And you know what he said? No, thank you. It's all hard. Honestly, I believe the Republican Party is 110,000% more the party of faith and advancing religious freedom in our country and other things that I align with. Pro-life, traditional family, doing things like not taking advantage of people and for their vote and creating sex trafficking industries, like opening our borders like we did. These implications of leadership have a lot to do with how we live our daily lives. And so I aligned with the Republican Party because I believe that the platform of the Republican Party way more aligns with me than anything I read in the Democrat Party. And so I don't believe there's 34 genders. I don't. I believe there's 2. I've always believed that. And I mean, we could just go through on education. I believe parents' rights are more important than a school being able to tell parents what they should do with their kids. And the Republican platform is very clear on that. There's a lot of things that we went through, but I could just give you some that I believe that the Republican platform is way more in alignment with the biblical worldview. Now, does that mean the Republican Party is equivalent to the church? Heck no, right? I mean, nothing on earth is, in terms of an earthly institution, is the same as the church. I understand there's a distinction and that no party is perfect. But if you look at the 2 platforms, there is no comparison in terms of which one greater aligns with biblical norms.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow. Great answer. Great answer. So we would encourage you to go to those websites, the platforms for the Texas Democratic Party and the Texas Republican Party, and read it for yourself. Like Jeremy said, don't take his word for it. Go and look for yourself because you will see.
Like we just saw this last week. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, not a perfect man. No politician in Washington is perfect. I'm not. But he gave a biblical case. He literally just went out of his way to go give a biblical case for why it was biblical to close the border and reform our education laws. I mean, our immigration laws. And he was doing it with care, with concern for both the illegal immigrants and our citizens. And he explained why biblically this idea of open borders and trying to apply what we should do as personal Christians to the government is not a good idea. There is a government is a completely distinct role from what God would call me as an individual Christian to do. So as a Christian, I might be called to be merciful in a situation. Well, a judge who works for the government, let's say some woman gets raped and the judge says, well, I know you proved it. This woman got raped. It was a really bad situation, but I'm going to be merciful and I'm not going to have any punishment for this gentleman. Well, we would all say, wait, what? Huh? But yet, as a Christian, we might be called to forgive. But as a judge for a government, no, you have laws. And so we need to understand that the admonitions in the Bible, oftentimes for me as an individual Christian, are not necessarily equivalent to what the government should do. I am supposed to feed the hungry and take care of all the people around me. Our federal government and our American system was not made to take care of everybody around them. In fact, the federal government does an absolutely horrible job when they try to take care of everyone around them. If the government comes to you and says, I'm here to help, you should run the other direction. It's not the best method. There are much better methods of private entities, churches, synagogues, other things that can serve people better than the government can. And so just to believe that the government is the answer is not what the Republican Party believes and not what I believe as a believing Christian. Sorry, I just went off there, but hopefully that's...
No. Well, it kind of segues into something you alluded to earlier. You talked about 2 issues that you're very interested in or concerned about. And one was securing the border. And the other one was for immigration laws to become fair and consistent here in the state of Texas. What other issues are you interested in or concerned with
securing
right
the
now,
family,
Jeremy?
making sure that we uphold traditional family. That is how you build a nation. There's so many ways in which Washington was trying to undermine that. We're moving in the right direction, but we need to continue to move further in that direction. So that involves education, for example. I'm extremely passionate about education. I have 28 years history in that. I've been to more college campuses and dealt with more high school, middle schoolers than most people in the country. And so I have a heart to make sure that our public education doesn't undermine parents and their authority, that we provide more options for parents, more ways in which they can not just be in one particular option, but they can have different things. So students thrive, so teachers thrive. So basically education thrives. Right now, our education system is often being used to manipulate students, to brainwash students, and very oftentimes to not provide a good education. We must turn that around. I think we need to get the federal government out of education. We need to can the Department of Education, push that back to the states, make that tied to the opportunity that any federal funding is tied to the opportunity to spread greater choice in education. I think on securing the economy is another big deal to me. We're $37 trillion in debt, $37 trillion. And if I get elected, by the time I get there, in terms of when I would actually take office, probably around 39 trillion. That is right now 124% if you do our GDP to debt ratio. If you look in the year 2000, so 26 years ago, just an even round number, that number was 58%. So we've gone from 58%, which was horrible, to 124%, which is even worse, in just 26 years. It's not just this sort of slow linear thing. It's a curve that is not sustainable and that we're running off a cliff and nobody seems to realize it. So what would I do? I would not vote for endless continuing resolutions. I would make sure and advocate for voting for the budget in pieces. And I would work with other Congress people who agree with that. And then those who are agreeing, but they're not willing to stand up, I'd help them find courage. And those who aren't, I'd help them change their mind, because we need to do that, or else we're going to be in a significant problem in so many ways with our national security. We can't defend ourselves with that kind of debt. We're going to lose our currency's power, as we already have. That's why inflation is out of control. That's why your average American can't afford a home. It's because the government has way overspent and devalued our currency, and we have to change that.
You know, Jeremy, I'd like you to speak towards something real quick. I spent 2 weeks with my dad, and he said one of his greatest concerns is that this November, that every Christian who takes exception to the tone of our current president is basically going to go and refuse to vote, and that we are going to completely lose the conservative voice in the House and the Senate that we currently have. And, you know, from there, it's just going to be impeachment and everything downhill. Talk to me about the importance of that the primaries have, and that this coming November has, to achieving a sound economy, to upholding family values, and to really being Christians in this nation that God has placed us in. Because, you know, look, any four of us, you know, maybe we could have been born in the Sudan. We could have been born in Guatemala, but he purposed us right here in this nation. And so what role do we need to play, and what is the importance of that role, especially this year?
So a tough question. Try to answer it quickly. It's very important. Essentially, Christians feel, some do, hey, I can't participate in this process. It's just too icky. I want them to understand theologically that is not Christian, right? God told us that this is John 17, when I'm telling you, if you don't like this, you don't like what Jesus said. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not quoting Jeremy, I'm quoting Jesus. He said to his disciples, actually to God, he was praying to God the Father. He is God the Son, but he's praying to himself and talking, and they're having a conversation, which tells you he's doing it for our sake. It's not like he's informing himself. And he says, I pray that my followers will be one. But then he says, I pray that they would not be taken out of the world, but they would be left in the world. So they would not be of the world, but be in it. And he goes and clarifies it. It's one of the few times that Jesus actually in a prayer clarifies himself. When he says, I pray that they would not be of the world, he says, but I don't pray they would be taken out of the world. So in other words, we're supposed to be in the world, but not of it. That's straight from Jesus. And Jesus lived that life. And so, yes, that means there will be icky, tough things. It just means that we don't have to be of it. And how do you be in the world and not of it? You have to walk in the power of God and power of his Holy Spirit, reading his word, listening to what he has to say to you on a daily basis, and acting on that. That would be my encouragement to you, that being next to sin doesn't make you sinful. That's what Jesus basically lived, was in the midst of sin, but not of it. And so we're called to the same thing. And so my advice to you would be, yes, politics is icky, but that doesn't mean you have to be icky if you get involved. You can still maintain God's righteousness and pursuing holiness while being involved. So in terms of your vote, my encouragement is go vote. Go vote. I promise you that no matter who comes up, they will be imperfect. No matter which party you vote for, there's going to be imperfect. So you either have to choose to completely opt out or to engage, but engage by being in it and not of it. I understand, you understand that we're not voting for our ultimate hope of savior of the world. We're voting for a leader of our country. And you have to make a decision between two very different worldviews. And so maybe you don't agree with Trump on everything, but I bet you that you agree with him on way more than you will what the Democrat candidate will say. I can almost guarantee you that. And we have to get past all the noise of the news and get down to the brass tacks. We were in a situation, we were sex trafficking kids across the border. That has been stopped. And that's not just bad for us as citizens. It's bad for the immigrants, by the way. And then there were the many who just died on the trail on the way up as drug cartels killed them. And we were helping it happen through just abusing our asylum laws in ways they were never meant to be used. And we were enticing people to come and literally essentially be trafficked, human trafficking, sex trafficking, the whole bit. That's a real moral issue that was going on during the Biden administration, and they lied about it. They absolutely lied about it. I'll tell you this. Biden kept saying, hey, I don't know where the wall is or wherever, we're not going to do it. But I knew because I'd been to the place where it was stored, which is a Central Texas guy that I'm personal friends with, where I literally had seen that he had built all these pieces and it was sitting here stored. And he told me that the Biden government was paying him to force him to keep it here so that it wouldn't be able to be implemented. So these are sorts of things we can't just be deceived over. So I think these issues are very important. We have to go out and vote. And in terms of Trump, I was on a spiritual advisory team in 2016 when people were uncertain. There was a gentleman by the name of George Soros that was literally going around. We found out I was one of about 15 people, and he was taking his money, a billionaire, and he was paying Christian leaders to say false things. To trick people into not voting. And if you remember back in 2016, there was this push in our quote culture to get Christians to stop voting. But listen to my word, Christians out there, it was done for one reason, not for your own good. It was done for the good of those who don't care about you. They were trying to suppress your vote because they knew if you went out and voted, Hillary Clinton wouldn't win and Trump would. And Hillary Clinton did not have our best interest at heart. And as a result, they were literally trying to suppress your vote. They were shaming you into not voting for someone so you would just stay home. It was part of a very calculated plan where Soros, I know firsthand, I'm telling you, this isn't some conspiracy theory. He was buying off evangelical leaders with donations, getting them to say things like that so that others, Christians, would be influenced and stay home instead of voting. And you know what we did? We exposed him. I helped run Christians for Trump, evangelicals for Trump, Catholics for Trump. And I was on the inside of this, watching how evil it was where people get manipulated. So here's my question. Don't be manipulated by Trump. Don't be manipulated by anybody. Go and vote for what your values are. And I will tell you that not only that, Trump has turned things around for family policies. He's turned things around for tax policies. He's turned things around for protecting our country, stopping the abuse of our military. There's been a lot of things that I agree with him on in that. I'll tell you one I don't. He insinuated maybe we should stop the Mexico City policy, which is the policy that bans abortion, use of foreign aid for abortions. I would say, no, I don't agree with that. We need to keep the Mexico City policy. So there are many things that I'm going to vote principled on. And if a Republican, Trump or someone else runs the other direction, I'm certainly going to stay principled. I'm not just going to lockstep run. And so I'm not telling you as a fellow Christian out there in the audience, just do whatever some Republican tells you. No, I'm just telling you that if you look honestly at the policies that Trump has implemented and the policies that would have been implemented otherwise, or even the ones that were done during the Biden administration, there's no comparison as to which one heads us in a more biblical, healthy way. Religious freedom. People have been promising for decades to get rid of the Johnson Amendment, which is the amendment that since the 1950s silenced churches and prevented them from speaking into the political realm. It specifically targets Christians and other religious groups that says you can say whatever you want as long as it's not about a candidate. Well, guess what? For 200 years before that, pastors and priests had led their congregations in knowing what to do and who to vote for in the government. And then Johnson decided he didn't like that because they were opposing him. And so he literally wrote into a bill, a little amendment that said that churches could no longer do that or they'd lose their tax status. It's a very new thing in American history. Well, guess what? Trump is delivering right now. I know, because I was just on a call about it yesterday with an organization I'm working with. And in the next probably month to 2 months, we're going to find out that Johnson Amendment, which was just tried in a court in Dallas. I was in the courtroom. So this isn't somebody else telling you about it from news. I was in the courtroom in front of the judge. I believe that judge is about to rule that the Johnson Amendment is unconstitutional, and he's going to open the door for churches to once again speak again. And that no one has delivered that for Christians.
Wow.
But Trump did. And so whatever you have a problem with him, please understand that he's not perfect, but he's delivering things for us that I believe are healthy. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything in order to vote for him.
I love what you say that no one on the ballot is perfect because Jesus is not running, right? Jesus is Lord, and he is asking us to step into those places. Thank you so much, Jeremy Story. Coach Carrie, did you want to take us out?
Yeah, sure. I was just going to say, listening friends, we'll be right back with the LoveTalk Network right after this. Hello, friends, and welcome back to LoveTalk Network. Coach Carrie Brinkader here with Marlene McMichael and Kathy Enderbrock. What an awesome interview with Jeremy Story. And I tell you what, ladies, it raises awareness for our responsibility when it comes to getting involved and our political responsibilities. This is not raising awareness for a particular candidate in any race, but this is raising awareness for our responsibility as Christians to, as Jeremy said, be in this world, and we are to be in this world, and we need to understand the difference between the two political parties. We need to understand the difference in the values that the two political parties are representing. And I thought it was great. He took us through some ways where we can go. We can go to the platforms, whatever state you're in. If you're listening to us and you're up in Connecticut, you can go to the Connecticut website for the Democratic Party, the Connecticut website for the Republican Party, just as we can do here in Texas, and you can view their platforms. And I think that is wildly eye-opening. And he even said, don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. And that's what we all need to be cognizant of, is going to do our own research as we decide who to vote for. Because Marlene, here in Texas, there's a lot of people on the ballot in the primaries.
There really is.
A lot of people on the ballot in the primaries. So the first step, go to the Texas Democrat website, go to the Texas Republican website, look at the platforms, decide which primary you're going to vote in. Vote your values. Vote your values. Right, Kathy?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was so eye-opening to me, all the different areas that he told us that we can get involved in as American citizens, where we want to have our voice heard. And I think I don't know, it is so interesting to me, because I think, voting is the big thing. Gosh, voting's just the start. Voting's just a little thing. It's like, oh my goodness, we're, just going and standing in line for, especially during early voting that starts on the 17th. I mean, if you're in line for like 20 minutes, that's a long time. As long as you don't wait until March the 7th?
March the 3rd.
March the 3rd. Yeah. I mean, if you wait till March the 3rd, then maybe you'll be in line for an hour. But, I don't know. It was so interesting to me, because I'm like, there's all these ways that we can get involved. I just forget about all that.
Well, and these midterm elections are very important. We think, it's just the primaries. I don't need to vote. I'll just wait until November. No, we need to go ahead and vote. Marlene, were you ever a precinct chair?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I think I was.
You think you were?
Yes, I was. I was involved in the Republican committee in Travis County more than I was in Williamson County.
Okay.
And I actually was the convention secretary at one point.
The state convention or the county convention?
State.
Okay. So you're trying to think.
Maybe it was county.
Maybe it was
county.
The Travis County convention.
It was county.
So I learned that you have to attend the county convention in order to be able to vote on platforms for the state convention of what you want your party's platform to represent. So you have to attend your county convention first. So find out when that is. And if that's a way that you think you can get involved, I think that's fantastic. If you don't want to run for office, that's a great way to get involved.
It is. And another thing is, with radio and television and how much everything costs, donors are very important in an election. And if that can be good and that can be bad. If the donations are small, that's great. You're not buying a candidate. But if you've got a donor who gives, $100,000 to a campaign, and there are those that do that, it can maybe turn the candidate. So there's a lot you need to know. You need to know what the candidate thinks, who his donors are, particularly if he or she is silent on certain issues. But it's really important to get involved, at what they call the grassroots level. and that, that can lead to other things and more involvement later down the road. But it is really important. Donors, a wide patch of donors that have given moderate donations is I think healthy for a campaign, because it doesn't make the candidate owe anybody anything.
Right.
He can stick to his values. And so it's a lot more work for our citizens to live in America and self-govern, but it is the best place in the world.
No, right.
I love that when he also was talking about the different things that we can do to build community, to make a difference right where we're at. He's like, pray with your neighbors. And I mean, how fun to go and have a primary prayer party and just pray that God would give favor to those leaders that he wants in those positions. And then, maybe share who knows what about each candidate within the district. And, so everyone can kind of figure out who to go and vote for, go out and vote, and then enjoy lunch after.
Yes.
The triple threat, the primary prayer party, the triple threat.
Well, and the other thing is, it's really interesting. I mentioned this in the opening, that there are so many candidates for every race.
Yeah.
Well, what that is in part, a lot of our office holders have been there a while. And so they're thinking, because of the unrest that's in our society today, that opens the door. The fact that the candidate has been there a long time and he may be aging or whatever, but also the unrest. So maybe I've got a shot, So you've got names on there that I don't know who they are, and I try and stay up on that. So it's really interesting, and I don't know that every state has a primary system quite like ours, but I think the principles are the same. Go find out who these people are, find out their backgrounds, who's supporting them, what are their belief systems, and then pick your candidate.
That's great advice. And get out and vote.
Yes.
Go
Go vote.
Go.